Imagine you move from a place where you lived all your life. Imagine you move and you leave all your children and wife. Starting all over again, but no one you know is around. Well, didn't have to imagine. They built it up from the ground. How does it sound? Not easy cause it isn't. Could have praised them, but it didn't. But the Ray Bond, that's a winner. And they ran straight to the finish. You get to know them up close and personal. Wait, just give me a minute. Welcome to the front row. Can I get a drum roll? Intentional. We may be immigrants, but we are still intentional. We are dependable. It's just that set the bar, but still the best of all. We are intentional.
Welcome to the Intentional Immigrants podcast and channel. I am delighted that you're able to join me here today. I'm your host, Yolanda Jack. Today we'll speak with Pratik, who is a regulated immigration consultant. Prior to that, he was an international student. So he came to Canada as an international student. And now he is an entrepreneur having his consultancy, his immigration consultancy. Pratik is from the country of India, and he tells us about his journey as an international student, what we need to see in India if we were ever to visit, as well as his immigration practice. Let's tune in as Pratik tells his story. Just before we join Pratik, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Intentional Immigrants podcast or on our YouTube channel. The Intentional Immigrants podcast can be found on Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and the channel is Intentional Immigrants on YouTube channel. We also have a website, which is www.intentionalimmigrants.com. Let's listen to Pratik's journey. Hi, Pratik. Welcome to the Intentional Immigrants podcast. I'm so delighted that you're able to join me here today.
Well, thanks, Yolanda. Thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to chatting with you.
Okay. All right. So, Pratik, take us on your journey. Where are you from originally? What brought you here? Where are you currently? And any other tips you want to share with us?
So I am from India. I am from a state called Gujarat, which is the western part of India. And I landed in Alberta in Fort McMurray 13 years ago. So I have been here for more than a decade. I came here to get some education and then decided to stay here, got a job, have a house in Fort Mac. So I live in Fort Mac. So it's coming from a positive 40 degrees to negative 40 degrees, coming from Western India to Western Canada. So the journey is quite long, but it is very good so far.
That's good. Where did you come to study? You said you came as an international student, right?
Yeah. So I went to Edmonton for a short while, and then I came to Fort Mac directly because I had family here and I moved here. So yeah, if you want to know like where I came first, it would be Edmonton, but I moved to Fort Mac like pretty soon after that. It was that boom time where everybody was moving, so I went with the flow.
You went with the flow. You have flowed into Fort Mac.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. What did you study?
I studied HR and business management. So that was my first I am still a student and I always be a student, I think. So I have never stopped studying, but that was my first thing in Canada that I did. And then I went on and got my master's from Newfoundland through Memorial University. And I have a CPHR designation, which I did in Alberta. So I've done a few things. I have gone to University of Saskatchewan to do some education as well. I've done some management graduate level courses from Switzerland too. So I've been to different places, but what I started with was HR.
Was the HR? Okay, okay. And because of you were able to work in the, were you able to get a job in the HR field directly after leaving?
Yeah, correct. So my first I started teaching. So I taught English as a second language and computers at the college. And then my first full-time job, that was during my education part. My first full-time job was I started as a manager for the Students Association in Fort McMurray. So that's related to HR. I used to hire students, train them. So it's training and development. That's what I did, and managing them, of course. That was my first job. And then my current position at the college, at Kiana College, is I am director for the Faculty Association, which is again in HR because I'm dealing with labor relations stuff. So yeah, my job is in HR.
Your job is in HR and you're loving it.
Yeah, I like it.
You like it a lot. Okay, that's good to hear. Good to hear. All right. So tell us something about India. So if I was to go to India,
yeah,
what is a must-see, must-have, must experience? So whether that be a food, a place, what is it that I cannot leave India without experiencing this?
Okay, so if you, it depends on what your interest is, right? Because India is a very unique country. It's an organized mess, I would call it. So you would love it if you like that kind of stuff, because it's one of the oldest civilizations. There are a lot of historic places to visit. Like there are artifacts, there are sculptures to see, there are brilliant engineering, like old age engineering to see. We have modern engineers too, but I think the old age engineering was much better. And so that is if that is of interest to you, right? But on the other side, it is a very, the state that I am from is very industrialized. So there are a lot of industries. It's one of the biggest hub for cotton producers, right? So there is a lot of clothing industry, there is oil industry there. So you would see very modern technology too at the same time. So it depends on what you like, right? But one thing that you must experience is if you like culture and dancing and stuff. The state that I am from has the world's longest dance festival, and it's usually in October. It's a 10-day festival. There are venues set up, and people just in the evening go and dance there. So if you really want to see the culture, that's where you go, you know.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's interesting.
Yeah.
To see.
Yeah.
Nice to see. Yeah. All right. So you are currently you're currently an entrepreneur as well. So in association, as well as having a job, you are also an entrepreneur. Tell us about your industry, what service you offer, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah. So from everything that I mentioned, I have one more designation, which is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. It's called an RCIC, and I have a license to practice immigration law in Canada. So that's I can help immigrants. So I have a company of my own. It's called Adrit Immigration Counsel Services, named after my nephew. And he, so the company is really helping immigrants to come to Canada. We mostly deal with students because that's what I have most experience with. I have worked in the post-secondary sector in Canada for more than a decade, right? So that's what I have most experience with. But we do deal with family applicants and visitors and things like that. So that's what I do on this side, just to, so it's not a charity. It is set up as a business, but
Mhm.
I don't treat as a business. So there is no marketing material, because there's um, no website. We don't go out promote. We only accept clients that come to us.
By referral.
Mostly, yeah. So I mostly get like clients whose applications have been refused. So I work on refused applications most of the time, um, and that's what I do. Just to help people. It's not a um, business that we focus on making profit. It is just a community service kind of thing. Because when I saw that there were a lot of issues with the immigration process that students and people who try to apply face, right? They're not able to put their best case forward, because they don't know how. They come from a background where writing, or like all this technical stuff that we do in Canada, is not their expertise, right? So to help them was the aim to set up this company. And we treat it like that. We don't go promote, we don't market it, we don't solicit clients. We just take people who need help, and we just help them. So that is the whole thing
Okay.
behind this, right?
Just by referral for the most.
Y- Yeah, only by referral. I don't accept like direct clients. I only accept clients if they're referred to me by a former client, or they come to me through one of the institutions that we work with.
Okay, okay. So do you think, or do you see where where your company, you'll be able to probably expand in a little bit? Or for right now, your focus is just on keeping it small and helping one-on-one mainly?
Yeah, well, it's not keeping it small, but it is only accepting things that we really think we can help with, uh,
Okay.
right? So I don't want like 20, 200 or 2,000 clients, and not do a substandard work for them.
Okay.
So if we have more time, we increase our resources, then of course we'll accept more clients. But
Mhm.
I would be the person. I'm kind of very hands-on, as you might know. I like to do things myself, right? Instead of like hiring agents who would work for
Mhm.
somebody else and they would just bring me clients. Like, I have no agents. I don't work with anybody else. I'm pretty hands-on that way. So if we can
Mhm.
handle more, we'll take more. But right now we only take what we have,
Mhm.
what we can handle, right?
What you can handle because you want to give your clients the best work, the best of
Correct.
yourself, basically.
Correct. I want to have a personal relationship with the client. I personally interview the client. I would set up a Zoom meeting now, because the face-to-face thing is not working. But I want to have that personal relationship, right? Because that's how I can work on their file and present their case. If an agent fills out a form, sends to me, I review the form, submit it. It doesn't help the client.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because each client is unique, so you can.
Correct. Correct. I need to know their story and where they're coming from. If they made a
Mhm.
mistake in the past, how do we fix the mistake? Because mistakes do happen. So
Mhm.
I tell the client to be open and honest with me, and we go through the things
Mhm.
that they have done so far, and draft a plan forward for them, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. From your experience, and how long have you been in this business of as an
So the
immigrant?
so the active immigration thing, it's less than 2 years. So
Listen. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you talk about growth, it has actually grown pretty fast, more than what I expected, because we have to stop taking clients.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. So from your experience, what are some ways that a person can come to Canada, can immigrate to Canada?
So because we work mostly with students, so that's one of the pretty popular avenue, if you
Yeah,
want.
that's
So coming to Canada, this is what I tell my clients in the first meeting, that don't think about I want to come to Canada, right? and just focus on that. And because I would have clients that say, no matter what you give me, what kind of file you do, I just want to come to Canada. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go wherever I can. And then I can, once I get my file, I'll move or whatever. And in that meeting, if I hear that, I would say, we are either not taking you, or you need to change your approach, because law is pretty clear about intention, right? Where what you intend to do in Canada. So it's not about just coming to Canada. And so I never ask questions, how, would you like to come to Canada? I always ask, what would you like to do in Canada? So if your intention is to study, then yes, welcome. Let's apply for a study permit. If your intention is to work, let's look at the program that you can get a work permit. Because if you get a study permit and work more than 20 hours, then you're in trouble. Right? So never focus on what would you like to do in Canada. That's what and that's what my philosophy or mantra for the immigration practice is, that I don't focus on what would you like. I always focus on what would you like to do in Canada, and what is your intention. If your intention is to not stay in Alberta, then we would not apply for an Alberta nominee program. If you want to go to Ontario, let's look at a program in Ontario, right?
Okay. So you do work with other provinces. It's not just Alberta, right? Other provinces?
Yeah. The license, I can work in any province except Quebec, because Quebec is a little different.
It's French.
Yeah. And even if it's not just the language, the way their practice is set up is quite different. So outside of Quebec, I can work with any province, and I do work with a lot of people who tell me, oh, I am in Nova Scotia, but I don't really like here. Not that Nova Scotia is a bad province. I'm just saying it's that person.
That's an example. Yeah.
So say I'm in Nova Scotia and I don't like here, and it's too windy and breezy here. So I want to go to Alberta. So then we would just look, even if they are in Nova Scotia, their intention is to come to Alberta. So look at Alberta nominee programs.
Okay.
So that's how we figure out like how you would come to Canada.
Oh, you come to Canada. All right. So tell me, from your experience, what is one challenge? It can be about immigration, or it can be about your previous experience. Nothing is off the table. What is one challenge that you would say was your most daunting challenge that you experienced? And what lessons did you learn from that?
Okay, so one of the most daunting challenges, I usually don't take challenges very negatively, right? Like I am pretty straightforward person, if you as you know me, and nothing bothers me so much now. But when I moved to Canada, one thing that bothered me so much was homesickness. I just wanted to go back. I do not want to stay here. And it's not the weather, it's not the place, it's not the people, it's nothing like that. It's just I missed my home. I've never been out of my house. Like I was pretty young. I'm still young, by the way. But I was pretty young when I came here, and Canada was my first travel. I've never traveled even out of my city without my parents. So when I came here, that's something that I found very challenging for the first couple of years. Not months, years. First couple of years were not good. I just wanted to go back, and then what I found was that it was challenging because I was not involved in anything, right? It was too monotonous of a life. Like you just go to school, go to work, come back, study, do assignments, and then you're done. I didn't talk to people. I was too shy. I still am. I was an introvert. So I didn't talk to anyone. I was a good student. So I would talk to my instructors and engage in class. But outside of that, I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't go I still don't go to like parties and stuff, but I didn't go talk to people, right? That's what I found. And when I got my job as a tutor, um, that's when the change really happened. Like I started talking to people, they'll tell me their stories, they will tell me their difficulties, and I would try to help them. And then I worked with the staff members in the sector that I'm working with. And it even got better when I became the manager of the student association, because I had 20 students that I used to supervise. And they were very different, everybody from a different background, different work culture. So working with them was really challenging, but that's when I really settled down. And I think that is for most people, like they have different challenges, sometimes financial, sometimes emotional, sometimes mentally they are not ready to accept the change, right? But the lesson that I have learned from is that you need to go, whatever that challenge is, you can't just hold that back within you. You have to go and talk to people. You have to like figure out things, right, yourself. And that is something that I've learned, and I still do that. If I'm not sure, I'll ask a question like, what's happening, right? And I was too shy to ask a question at that time.
Okay.
I hope you got the answer from the whole story. And
tell me about an experience that blew you away in terms of the impact of your service.
so I recently worked with a student, and as I said, like it is very important to put forward your application in the perfect manner, right? So the student got refused a couple of times before they come to me. Yeah. And she was very smart student, right? Very genuine. And but she said, oh, I have applied a couple of times, I got refused, I don't know why, right? And first, the way I saw her writing, and I was like, maybe, she doesn't have the academic background or whatever. But when I talked to students, she was a very bright student. And I was like, how could they refuse this student, right? Of all the students. Like, she's so smart, and she is genuinely interested in studies. She wants to go back to her country and open a childcare facility there. And she has everything drafted out. But so I said, give me your application, what you submitted. Let me just look at it. So the plans that she mentioned to me, and she showed the documentation. So it wasn't just frivolous plans. It was real documented plan. And I said, did you submit this? And she said, no, because they didn't ask for it on the online application. And I said, oh, darn, right? Because students don't know that. They give a checklist, and the checklist has forms and a few things that you have to submit. That's it. So if a student was to go look at the checklist, that's what they would submit, right? So we finally got the approval for that student because we submitted a good application. But that just blew my mind, that sometimes we are, and even taking that example into like our normal work situation, we work with emails and online stuff a lot, right? So we are too quick to judge people based on their writing, based on their communication skills. If they're too straightforward, you might, if you're from a different culture, you would take that as rude, so we're too quick to judge, and we have to give some time, right, on things before judging. And that's what I learned from that experience. Just blew away my mind. We got the approval, but I was so happy. Like, that is one application that I was praying to get approved. And I was like, please get this girl a permit, because she's a genuine student. She has great plans, and she would do really good, like, after going back, right?
Well.
Yeah.
All right. Just before we close our interview, what is your philosophy or mantra?
My philosophy or mantra is, I really don't have like a philosophy that's written on my whiteboard here, but it's just doing the right thing, right? and
Yeah.
trying to help people, because sometimes people need help, and everybody needs a different kind of help. So if you don't know what they need, either ask or stop judging. you know that's what I believe in.
That's what you believe. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
What is one habit that you have that you think has has made you successful to the point where you are presently?
Yeah, I really, um, this is something that's imparted to me from my my parents and grandparents, and I would like to impart this to my children too.
Mhm.
uh, you really need to respect people and where they come from, right? Which has helped me to work with students, which has helped me to work with my job as a director for the faculty association. It has helped me to work with students, international students, because everybody has a different journey, right?
Mhm.
And I'll give you an example. I had a friend, and he used to share like stories in classroom, right? About like wars, and just to articles about war, to familiarize students with writing, right? But there was a student who disappeared from the class like after a couple of sessions, and the friend wasn't able to figure out why the student was not coming. So he
Mhm.
contacted the student, and he said, and the student said, I like you, I like your teaching, but your class really bothers me. And when he tried to inquire it further, he found out that the student was a refugee here, and the
Oh,
student's parents were both killed in a war.
that was traumatic for the student.
That was traumatic for the students. So now if you just say, oh, the student is too lazy to come to class, so that is an example, right? And say the student will never come to class, too lazy, not a good student, whatever. But you don't know their story, right? So even when
Mhm.
I'm talking to you in this interview, there might be things that people would go like, he shouldn't have said that, right? So you don't know that. So really respect people's background and stories, and just the word respect should be your on your uh,
On your
whiteboard.
wall, on your forehead,
Yeah, wherever you can put it, on your
everywhere
wrist.
you, everywhere you look.
Yeah, but that is something that I follow. I really respect people. I don't judge them. I don't care about what position they hold or what how much power they have. I just treat them the way they are.
Treat them as people, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there a book that you have read which has helped you or that you would recommend to our readers or to our listeners to say, hey, here's a book that you really need to read?
So, as you can tell from my glasses, I have read a lot. So it would be difficult to point out one book because it depends. I read a variety of things, right? So if you're
Mhm.
into finance, I would recommend A Random Walk Down the Wall Street. If you're in investment, you should read A Millionaire Teacher. If you are in legal writing kind of stuff, you should read Point Taken, Point Made. If you are meditation yoga kind of a person, you should read Inner Engineering, right? So it's different books for different
Mhm.
people, whatever your interest is. But those are the subjects that I usually read. And but if you don't know how to read, I would recommend, this is the book that I recommend to all my students, is How to Read a Book. There is a book on that, and it's a brilliant book. So you should learn how to read
But to read a
first before starting to read.
book.
Sorry.
All right. Pratik, are there any, just before we go, are there any tips or any advice you want to give to fellow immigrants or people who are thinking of immigrating to a new country?
Yeah, I would say when you get here, of course it's a different world, right? It's something that you have never experienced before, especially if you come from um, like the eastern part of the world, the Asian countries or African countries, because the cultures are very different, right? So of course you would find difference here, but there are a lot of, and I would also say that it would not be easy to settle in, right? It is very difficult to find your first job, um, and it is very difficult. Like I have applied for jobs that I thought I was qualified for, and I wasn't even interviewed. So so that would happen to you, but that should not discourage you, right? Like life, something that my mom says is life is going to throw stones at you, and you have to build your house out of that. So that is something that you should keep in mind, that it would be challenging, but there would be also great people. Like I've had great mentors. They have helped me. They have encouraged me to do things. If I was sick, people have brought me medicines. If if I was not understanding something because of a cultural thing, they would come to me and say, oh, you know what, this is how we do this in Canada, right? So look for those great people, and disregard the people who would not call you for an interview.
Okay. All right. Pratik, thank you so very much for spending time with us this morning. How can my listeners make contact with you?
So as I said, like we don't have a website or anything, but I can give you my email, and you can put it at the end of the interview, and anybody can email me.
You can just say it. You can just email.
Yeah, it's aics2400@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you, Pratik. It was good chatting with you this morning. And
well, it was my pleasure. Thanks.
I'll probably be making contact with you again.
Yeah, for sure.
About the immigration stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, Pratik. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Yolanda.
Thank you for tuning in to the Intentional Immigrants podcast and channel. Thank you to the following persons who made today's episode possible. Today's guest, Pratik Tripathi. Xavier Anderson for providing music. As always, I am your host, Yolanda Jack, reminding you, he who watches the wind will not sow. He who watches the clouds will not reap. Ecclesiastes 11 and verse 4. You were born for greatness. Step out into your greatness so that mankind can benefit from you being here. So long, until next time.
Intentional. We may be immigrants, but we are still intentional. We are dependable. It's just that